You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
What's poppin', people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. Hope you're doing well. Genuinely, wholeheartedly do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News, of course, throughout the transfer window. Throughout each day in the transfer window, I'll be here giving you updates. I'll be there to comfort you. Or just give you the Chelsea news. Of which there's a lot at the moment. Wesley Fofana training with the under-23, so he's ready for the pre-season. Very exciting. South American journalist confirming what's going on with Anselmino. And yes, I'm going to talk about Alexander Isak. I was reluctant to, but the stories are floating around like something you probably eventually have to address. So that's why I'm here. I'm going to talk about it, and maybe a little bit of Cole Palmer in England. Who knows? We'll see how we get on. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for supporting the content by dropping a like, commenting, hey, sharing. I don't know if that's a thing you guys do. I'm actually going to check the shares metrics at the end of this month, so very soon, and see if people are sharing and seeing if you, man, are doing God's work, helping out your boy. Yeah. Alright, so Team Fofana is an Instagram account. It's been confirmed by Wesley himself that he will be training with the under-23s on Tuesday in a few days' time. Very, very exciting. Before entering full training with Maresca on the 8th of July. So Wesley Fofana, you guys know he's my favourite centre-back at Chelsea Football Club. He was my favourite centre-back probably in the league as a non-Chelsea player when he was at Leicester. He is a Chelsea fan. Is pictured, of course, when he was a little kid in Chelsea shirts. He's obviously at the club he wants to be. He's still very young, 23 or something. He is an incredible footballer, trust me. Of course, we need him to regain his form and ability prior to his bad injury. But he's good. He's on the grass. He's been training for a while, and he was always going to be part of Chelsea's pre-season training. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a starter going into next season, purely on the premise of, even if he's fit and in good shape, coming in cold for no competitive football for over a year, that's going to be tough. Genuinely. So I feel like for that reason, the right-sided centre-back in Enzo Maresca's Chelsea moving forwards, I have an inkling. I mean, some people might think it's Disassi, but I have an inkling it's going to be Tosin. Of course, we've got Bernardo Cueva, the set-piece coach. He's going to want to, big, tall, strong boys in there. Tosin looks like a basketball player, I feel like, and he's obviously really experienced in the Prem, more so than Disassi. I think Tosin's going to be the right-sided defender, but I would love, in Kevin Keegan fashion, I would love it if our long-term centre-back partnership would consist of Colwill and Fofana. Fofana's my boy. You're my boy, Blue. Anyone get that reference? So let's talk about learning English. Let's talk about centre-backs. Let's stay in the defensive sector and talk about Aaron Anselmino, the Boca Juniors teenage defender sensation that apparently, I mean, Romano hasn't given the here we go, but a South American journalist called Uriel Lukt has pretty much said he's done. He is followed by Nizar Kinsella and Ben Jacobs. So that's kind of like authenticity for me, of course. Two respectable journalists, and Naz and Jacobs follow him, so he must be a proper journo, this geezer. It's going around a little bit. It was aggregated on social media. He has tweeted this. I was going to try and read the Spanish version then. Fortunately, I did see the translation underneath. Aaron Anselmino is a new player for Chelsea. Boca sells him to Chelsea for $18 million US dollars. What's that, like 15 million quid? Oh, I mean, I don't know why I'm acting like that's a good deal. I've never heard of this kid until recently, but it's not a lot of money. And this is the important part. He's going to stay on loan with Boca for either 6 months or a year. So basically, we're not going to see him in pre-season. He's going to stay over there. And we have the right and the option within this contract to basically bring him in January, or it's just December here, so we can bring him halfway through the season should we want him. But he's going to stay between 6 months and a year at Boca Juniors. So between Tuesday and Wednesday, he travels to London for the medical and then returns to Argentina. His contract will be until 2030. So I think that will be a 6+1 deal, 6 years plus one. Of course, he's very young still, so it sees him into his mid-20s ish. Yeah. Apparently, a really good signing. I must admit, of course, I don't know the youth prospects of Boca Juniors because I'm just not that much of a footballing pervert. I'm pretty close though. But I have watched videos on social media. He looks mustard, innit? You watch these clips of him defending, and you think, oh, looks good, doesn't he? Looks good. Romano has followed up on it, and he says Chelsea will pay less than $25 million. I mean, so 18. If 18, I mean, it's cheap, isn't it? It's a cheap player, and he sort of essentially reiterates the fact how medical soon, and he'll be on loan back to Boca for between 6 months and a year. So I've done a bit more of a mood test on this, looking at the socials. People are generally feeling pretty positive about Aaron Anselmino, and that he is an exciting signing and a very, very top centre-back. And we apparently have a team of super teens. A team of super teens. Yeah. So, yeah. Obviously, it's a positive. We're getting a super talent, but it's not as exciting as, for example, a Mark Gue, who is going to be in the Chelsea for pre-season, and he's apparently going to be just immediately in Chelsea's first team, probably as a second to third choice striker, depending on what else Chelsea do in the market. And yes, we are going to talk about Isak, don't worry. But he'll be utilised, it looks like, and also he's big and strong, and he's direct. He looks like he's prepared for the Prem, and he's an appropriate player for the Premier League, so that's interesting. But Anselmino, one for the future, in 6 months to 12 months, is he just going to be a Chelsea first teamer, or is he going to come to Europe, to Chelsea, and then be loaned to a European club to season himself even more, quite possibly. And then, he could be a Chelsea player, or he could be a portfolio player, as I've been calling it, to make revenue. If he's £15 million, and Chelsea bring him in 6 months to a year, loan him to a European club, a top 5 league or something, and he does well, they'll feel like they can double their money on him, probably. Make their money, or maybe even more, or who knows, maybe he'll become a Chelsea first teamer. The option's there if he's amazing. Right then, I'm going to end on Isak. I want to talk about Cole Palmer. He's been speaking to the media, of course. Interestingly, joked about to the media on England, while he's on England camp, how he used to be a left back and everyone getting terribly excited, and he's like, not anymore, under 10's left back, of course, because England have a left back crisis, which makes us look like mugs now, considering we could have called up Chilwell or Lewis Hall or whatever. Anyway, he has spoken about how he's just ready to start. I feel like, you've got Gary Neville on the overlap as well, saying he should start. He says, I love Saka to bits, but I feel like he should start Palmer. You just give him a game. Give him a game, see what you can do, because he looks so good for 20 minutes. I'm inclined to agree, but the media briefings out there are suggesting that he as in Gareth Southgate, is going to just keep the same attack, and the only change that will be made in the England team tomorrow is Kobbie Mainoo coming in for Conor Gallagher in the midfield. Of course, I'm a Conor Gallagher fan. As an England fan, I understand and probably endorse that switch, because the role that Gallagher's been asked to do doesn't suit him. We need someone to come in next to Declan Rice as an England fan and put their foot on the ball a bit more. Break the lines as an attacker, which Mainoo does well, but also can control games. It's not Gallagher's game, that. I think Gallagher's really, really useful. I think he will continue to be useful for England for years to come, probably largely as a closer rather than a starter. That's just my opinion, of course. But Cole Palmer said he's ready to start for England. He also spoke about Pochettino, saying he was gutted when he was sacked, understandably, because he's, if it wasn't for Pochettino, I wouldn't be here at this England camp. And that's true. It's true. Even if we were always going to sign Palmer because of Joe Shields, obviously that's not part of Pochettino's entourage. Poch is like, go and have fun football, go and have fun lads football, very much suits Cole Palmer. I don't know if it suited Chelsea as a whole. I've been very clear on my opinion with this. I don't think Palmer will have as good a season this upcoming campaign as he did last season. I'd love him to and have an even better one, of course, but I have a feeling because it's not going to be this like high octane chaos ball from Pochettino where, you know, players like Palmer can shine. There's going to be a little bit more rigidity and systemic formulaic way of playing. I feel like he'll be more on a leash, but I also think Chelsea will be better for it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we'll be a better team, a little bit more Antonio Conte style. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I think. But obviously I'd love to see him play for England Palm. I think everyone would. England fans, Chelsea fans alike. So, strikers. Now there was a story that came out a few days ago about Alexander Isak. I think it was in the Mail. And although I do cite the Mail online sometimes here on this series, I was just reluctant because I was like, yeah, right. It needs to be like, I just didn't see it, right? But this, and you know, you got people like Matt Law like waving it away as well. But it hasn't gone away. I think Matt Law's referenced it, and now The Athletic, of course, have referenced it, and you know, David Ornstein has done additional reporting on this. Of course, Newcastle United, they're not in Europe. They do have PSR issues. They're trying to sell players to Nottingham Forest and stuff, and there's talk about Gordon and Isak. Of course, Gordon's very high profile for them, still relatively new, England international now, etc, etc. Some people are talking about they'd like Gordon at Chelsea, so maybe Tuchel was onto something when he wanted Anthony Gordon. Although I do actually think I did hear at the time that Thomas Tuchel wanted Anthony Gordon to become a left wing back because he saw this great, because he's so industrious, Gordon, isn't he? He's almost like a sort of winger style Conor Gallagher, but he's really industrious. Like he harries and he runs and he works really hard. And Tuchel saw that as like a left wing, because he's attacking as well, as a left wing back option that could attack and score goals and assist. I don't think he would have wanted to play left wing back. Look, I know Chelsea are in for a left sided attacker, right footer. I don't think we're going to throw the bag at Anthony Gordon. And again, back then, Chelsea fans weren't really interested in him. I know he's more high profile now, but still, probably, you know. We're dealing with other Galacticos like Dewsbury Hall. I'm joking. We have signed high profile players. And of course, there's this link to Alexander Isak. Okay, one sale which Newcastle are hugely reluctant to countenance, The Athletic writes, is the potential departure of Alexander Isak to Chelsea Football Club, the third highest scorer in the Premier League last season. Isak. Conversations have taken place between the two clubs, but Newcastle would only consider selling the striker as a last resort, with Chelsea believing they would have to pay some £100 million to have a chance at securing him. Yes. So Isak, he's obviously talismanic for Newcastle. He's elite. He's an elite Premier League operator. How old is he, right? Because he's got to be young, isn't he? Let's just quickly Google. He's 24, so he's under 25, and he turns 25 in September, so in a couple of months. The big, early doors next season. He's sick, Alexander Isak. I mean, if this story picks up any momentum, we will have a look at his stats and get terribly excited, as I like to do on this channel. But he's, of course, he's just a superb centre forward. There's no other way of describing him. The way he moves in the 18-yard box is just incredible, and the way he finishes is incredible. And he would be Chelsea's starter. Nico Jackson would immediately be relegated to second choice / competition, which is fine. Or talk about you want that left-sided, right-footed attacker. Maybe Nico Jackson becomes a winger again. Left wing Jackson, striker Isak, right wing Palmer or whatever. I mean, it sounds superb, doesn't it? Now, of course, the big story is Newcastle United are battling PSR problems. They obviously very much wanted to qualify for some form of Europe, and they are looking to do a deal. Chelsea and Newcastle United maintain an excellent relationship. Of course, Newcastle United is owned by PIF, the Public Investment Fund, Saudi Arabia. Todd Bowley has a relationship with the Saudis, and so does Clearlake Capital, respectively. So Chelsea do have a good relationship with their ownership, and there's this idea that, they want to help each other out. But, they don't want to sell Isak. He's their boy, basically, and they want to they want to navigate PSR another way. But Chelsea would obviously like Isak. Apparently we can spend money. I don't know how. We've got magicians in the finance department. We've got wizards at Chelsea. But there is talk that Chelsea would have the money to spend on a big signing somehow. And also we've got wages. You know how we were reluctant to give Elise wages? Like, Isak scores goals for his country. He's been scoring goals in... Was he in the Champions League when they were scoring? I'm assuming he scored in the Champions League last season. He's a little bit more like... I feel like he could command as a centre forward who's a bit older than Elise, who's got a senior, international for his country. He would be a little bit more commanding of a wage. Now, look, here's the question. Would I want Isak at Chelsea? You bet your ruddy behind I would. Absolutely, I would. I just would. And I do feel like we could find, we'd give him maybe Nkunku wages. 190k a week. I think he'd probably go for that. Significant. It's not Rad Sterling 320, but it's, if you give Nkunku 20, Nkunku was the same age as him when he signed, so it could be similar. Like, you're not going to give you the Mudryk wages that little, but we don't give like crazy wages. But yeah, pushing up to 200k, significant wages. So I feel like we'd be able to get him on personal terms. I feel like maybe he'd be interested in joining Chelsea. I know he loves it at Newcastle. He's a bit of an icon there. You got Shearer coming out saying, "Oh, we'd never leave. Why would he leave? He knows how important he is, and Newcastle will be mad to sell him." I feel like maybe. I don't think I think he likes it there, but it's still Chelsea. No disrespect to Newcastle, they're a massive club. They've got an amazing fan base and support. But, I have a feeling that Chelsea are going to be in Europe more consistently than Newcastle for the next 5 years, which is obviously the most important 5 years of Isak's career. So I feel like he would come to Chelsea. I feel like we could pay his wages. But could we buy him? Let's just say 100. Look, people are saying 200 million and stuff. Obviously, that's dumb. We'd never do it. But let's say 100 million pounds. I'd be ruddy tempted, I tell you. I would be. If Enzo's 105, if Caicedo was 115. This is a guy a little bit more senior, but still entering his prime. He's a goal scorer, which comes at a premium. He's a Premier League goal scorer. And he's 2 or 3 years younger than when we signed Lukaku. I just feel like, and obviously the way he moves is much more adaptable than Lukaku. I would pay 100 million pounds for him if we've got it. Look, if we were talking about Victor Osimhen and we were unsure, and Osimhen's about the same age, isn't he, as Isak? I think Osimhen's slightly older now. He was 120 million euros. There's talk about you might be able to get Osimhen for 90 million pounds now. I know Osimhen's won the Scudetto, but I would rather Isak than Osimhen now. That's just where I'm at. I've seen Isak recently in the Premier League, playing incredibly well. I don't know how Osimhen would translate. I'd rather pay a little bit more for Isak than Osimhen. Again, he's not as a sexy a name because Osimhen's like sort of African icon, Scudetto winner, Napoli, etc. But that's just how I feel. There I said it. So I've given you my thoughts on Isak. It's highly unlikely, but the fact remains that the story won't go away. So here I am reacting to it. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Nearly at 185,000 subs. So thank you for helping me get there. Do consider doing that. And yes, keep it locked. I'll be back. Peace.